What if the reason you feel lonely, lost, and quietly exhausted isn't that your life failed, but that no one ever taught you how to live inside your own mind? What if decades of confusion, emotional pain, and emptiness could be traced back to a single missing lesson? Many people reach their 30s, 40s, even their 50s with careers, relationships, and experiences, yet still feel disconnected from themselves. They wake up each day sensing that something is wrong, but they can't name it. It isn't a lack of success, it's a lack of inner order. Stoic philosophers understood this long before modern psychology existed. They didn't see loneliness as a social problem or depression as weakness. They saw them as signals, warnings that a person was living out of alignment with what they could actually control. In the next 30 minutes, you'll learn one Stoic lesson that can save you years of silent suffering. This isn't motivation, it's a reset, a return to clarity, self-respect, and calm strength. 1. Loneliness is not about being alone. Loneliness does not begin when people leave your life. It begins when you lose connection with yourself. Most people believe loneliness is caused by isolation, lack of relationships, or not being seen by others. So they try to fix it by staying busy, talking more, scrolling more, or surrounding themselves with noise. Yet even in rooms full of people, the feeling remains. Because loneliness is not about how many people are around you. It's about how far you've drifted from your own inner world. You can have a partner, a family, and a full schedule, and still feel empty inside. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius lived among crowds, soldiers, advisors, and power, yet he constantly reminded himself to return inward. He knew that without inner order, external connection becomes shallow. When your thoughts are scattered and your values unclear, no relationship can truly anchor you. Modern life intensifies this disconnection. You're constantly pulled outward. Opinions, expectations, comparisons, and digital noise compete for your attention. Over time, you become familiar with everyone else's voice, but distant from your own. You stop asking what matters to you and start reacting to what demands you. That is where loneliness quietly grows. Not the dramatic kind that announces itself, but the quiet kind that shows up at night after conversations end. The kind that makes you feel unseen, even when people listen. The kind that leaves you wondering why nothing truly satisfies you anymore. Stoicism doesn't tell you to escape this feeling, it tells you to listen to it. Loneliness is not punishment. It's a signal that your inner life has been neglected. When your thoughts, actions, and values no longer align, the mind feels abandoned. You stop feeling lonely when you stop living outside yourself. When you rebuild inner clarity, define what you stand for, and act accordingly, silence no longer feels threatening. It feels stable. And a person who is grounded within their own mind is never truly alone, even in solitude. 2. You are not lost. You lack inner direction. Feeling lost is not a sign that you've failed. It's a sign that you've been moving without a compass. Most people don't feel lost because life went wrong. They feel lost because they followed paths that were never consciously chosen. School, work, expectations, and routines slowly stack on top of each other until one day you realize you've been moving for years without knowing why. The motion never stopped, but the meaning quietly disappeared. Busyness hides confusion better than idleness ever could. Modern culture rewards movement, not direction. As long as you're productive, responsive, and occupied, no one asks whether you're fulfilled. So you keep going. You keep saying yes. You keep chasing the next step, hoping clarity will appear later. But clarity never comes to those who never pause to define it. The Stoics were clear about this. Seneca warned that if a person does not know which harbor they are sailing toward, no wind will ever feel favorable. Progress without direction is simply a more efficient way to drift. You can move fast and still go nowhere meaningful. Being lost often feels like restlessness, not despair. It shows up as irritation with small things, boredom no achievement seems to fix, and a quiet frustration that says there has to be more than this, even when life looks fine on the surface. That feeling isn't weakness. It's your mind signaling that your actions no longer match your values. Comparison makes this worse. You see others who seem confident, decisive, and fulfilled, and you assume they know something you don't. So you copy their goals, their lifestyle, their pace. But borrowed direction never brings certainty. It only deepens the sense that you're living someone else's life. Stoicism offers a different solution. Define your inner axis. Instead of asking, "What should I achieve?" the Stoics asked, "What kind of person must I be?" They believed direction comes from values, not outcomes. When you know what you stand for, decisions become simpler, not easier but clearer. Marcus Aurelius wrote reminders to himself about justice, self-control, courage, and reason, not because the world was calm, but because it wasn't. He understood that external chaos demands internal structure. Without it, the mind is pulled in every direction by events it cannot control. You stop feeling lost when you stop outsourcing your direction. When you choose a small set of principles and let them guide your actions, even uncertainty becomes tolerable. You may not know exactly where you'll end up, but you know how you will move. That alone restores dignity and calm. Being lost is not a permanent condition, it's a moment of misalignment. And the moment you begin living by chosen values instead of borrowed goals, direction quietly returns. 3. Depression is not a weakness, it's a signal. Depression is not proof that you are broken, it is proof that something inside you has been ignored for too long. Modern culture treats depression as a personal flaw or a chemical malfunction to be silenced as quickly as possible. While medical support has value, Stoicism asks a deeper question before numbing the pain. It asks what this pain is pointing to, because persistent suffering rarely appears without a message. The Stoics did not fear sadness. They listened to it. They understood that emotions are not random enemies. They are responses to how we live and what we believe. Epictetus taught that people are disturbed not by events themselves, but by the judgments they form about those events. When those judgments remain unexamined, the mind turns against itself. Depression often grows when a person lives in constant contradiction. You wake up each day doing what you dislike, tolerating what drains you, and silencing what matters to you. Over time, the mind begins to protest, not loudly, but persistently. Motivation fades, joy feels distant, everything requires effort. This is not laziness, it is misalignment. When your actions no longer reflect your values, the mind loses its sense of coherence. You may not consciously know what's wrong, but your nervous system does. It reacts with heaviness, numbness, and withdrawal. Depression becomes the body's way of saying this way of living is not sustainable. What makes modern depression especially heavy is overstimulation without meaning. Endless information, entertainment, and comparison keep the mind busy but unfulfilled. You are constantly reacting, rarely choosing. The Stoics warned against this kind of mental slavery long before screens existed. A mind without discipline is easily overwhelmed. Stoicism reframes depression as feedback, not identity. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that inner disturbance is often self-created, not through weakness, but through misplaced attention. When you focus on what you cannot control, measure yourself by outcomes, or tie your worth to external approval, inner stability erodes. Depression often appears as the cost of misplaced priorities. This does not mean you can simply think your way out of suffering. Stoicism is not denial, it is responsibility. It teaches you to examine where your energy goes, what beliefs guide your choices, and whether your daily actions align with your principles. Change begins with honest observation. Pain becomes lighter when it gains meaning. The moment you stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and begin asking, "What is this feeling asking me to correct?" something shifts. You reclaim agency. Depression stops being a verdict on your character and becomes a signal for recalibration. Stoicism does not promise constant happiness. It offers something more durable, clarity that comes from living according to reason, values, and self-respect. Emotional storms still arrive, but they no longer define you. They pass through instead of taking over. Suffering loosens its grip when it stops being wasted, and when pain teaches you how to live better, it no longer owns you, it serves you. Now to the one Stoic lesson that changes everything. Most suffering comes from fighting battles you were never meant to win. Stoicism teaches you which battles to walk away from and which ones to master. At the core of Stoic philosophy lies one simple but life-altering principle: the dichotomy of control. It divides everything in your life into two categories: what is within your control and what is not. This lesson sounds obvious, yet failing to live by it quietly destroys decades of peace. You control your thoughts, your choices, and your actions. You do not control people, outcomes, the past, or how the world responds to you. Most people understand this intellectually but ignore it emotionally. They spend their lives trying to manage other people's opinions, rewrite past mistakes, predict outcomes, or force fairness from an unfair world. Each attempt drains energy, builds resentment, and deepens frustration. Over time, this constant resistance becomes exhaustion. Epictetus stated it plainly: "Some things are up to us, and some things are not." When we confuse the two, we suffer unnecessarily. We blame ourselves for what we could not control and neglect responsibility for what we could. This confusion is one of the greatest sources of anxiety and depression in modern life. You don't feel overwhelmed because life is too hard. You feel overwhelmed because you're carrying what doesn't belong to you. Notice how often your mood depends on external reactions: a message not replied to, a decision you can't influence, a result you worked for but didn't receive. Each time you attach your peace to these things, you hand your inner stability to forces outside your command. Stoicism calls this voluntary slavery of the mind. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that the world does not owe him cooperation. People will misunderstand you. Plans will fail. Effort will not always be rewarded. When you expect otherwise, disappointment becomes inevitable. When you accept reality as it is, strength replaces frustration. The Stoic does not try to control life. He trains himself to respond wisely to it. This shift is where decades of suffering quietly dissolve. The moment you stop asking, "How do I make this turn out the way I want?" and start asking, "What is the best response available to me right now?" your focus returns to where your power actually lives, not in outcomes, but in conduct. Living by the dichotomy of control does not make you passive. It makes you precise. You stop wasting energy on resentment and start investing it in action. You stop rehearsing conversations that will never happen and start strengthening character traits that always matter. Courage, discipline, patience, and honesty become your anchors. This is why one lesson can save you 25 years of pain. Without this principle, you repeat the same emotional mistakes endlessly. You argue with reality. You demand closure from people who cannot give it. You tie your worth to results that fluctuate. Each cycle costs time, energy, and self-respect. Stoicism breaks the loop. When you fully accept what is not in your control, something unexpected happens. Tension releases. The nervous system calms. Problems remain, but they stop feeling like verdicts on your value. Peace begins the moment resistance ends. This lesson also restores responsibility. You no longer blame circumstances for your reactions. You stop saying, "They made me feel this way." Instead, you ask, "How will I choose to respond?" That question alone returns dignity to your life. You are no longer a victim of events. You are a participant with agency. Stoicism does not promise happiness. It promises stability. It teaches you how to stand upright in uncertainty, act honorably without guarantees, and remain calm without controlling everything. This is not emotional suppression. It is emotional maturity. You cannot command the storm, but you can learn to steer your ship. And once you understand this, loneliness softens, confusion clears, and depression loses its authority, not because life becomes easy, but because your mind finally knows where its power ends and where it begins. 5. How one lesson can save you 25 years of suffering. Most pain is not created by major disasters. It's created by small mistakes repeated for years. People assume suffering comes from tragedy, loss, or betrayal. But when you look closely, decades of emotional pain are usually built from everyday reactions that were never corrected. Overreacting to opinions. Staying where you are not respected. Chasing outcomes instead of building character. These patterns seem harmless in the moment, but they quietly compound. Without the dichotomy of control, you relive the same emotional arguments again and again. You replay conversations in your head. You wait for apologies that never come. You hope people will change so you can finally feel at peace. Each year passes, but the inner conflict remains identical. That is how 25 years disappear. Think about relationships that lasted longer than they should have, not because of love, but because of fear. Fear of being alone, misunderstood, or judged. You tried harder, explained more, endured longer, all because you believed your peace depended on someone else's behavior. Stoicism cuts this illusion cleanly. You don't need closure from others to move forward. Once you accept that other people's actions are not yours to control, you stop negotiating with disrespect. You stop investing energy in convincing those who cannot hear you. This single realization can save years of emotional exhaustion. The same applies to career and identity. Many people stay stuck in work they hate because they're chasing external validation, status, approval, or the image of success. They believe happiness will arrive once the outcome changes. Stoicism reminds you that outcomes are uncertain, while effort and integrity are not. When you measure life by what you can control, regret shrinks. Regret comes from realizing you lived by standards that were never yours, from spending energy on things that never truly mattered. The Stoic lesson interrupts this before it hardens into bitterness. It teaches you to focus on daily conduct instead of future guarantees. Marcus Aurelius warned that life is short, and wasting it on inner turmoil is the greatest loss, not because pain is avoidable, but because unnecessary pain is optional. Most suffering is not imposed by fate, it's invited through misdirected attention. This lesson also protects your self-respect. When you stop tying your worth to outcomes, criticism loses its sting. Failure becomes feedback, not identity. Emotional stability compounds over time, creating confidence that does not need to be defended. Imagine correcting these patterns 10 years earlier. The arguments you wouldn't have had, the nights you wouldn't have spent overthinking, the relationships you would have left sooner, the clarity you would have gained. That is how one lesson saves decades, not by changing life overnight, but by changing how you meet it. Wisdom doesn't erase pain. It prevents wasted pain. Stoicism doesn't promise a perfect life. It offers something more realistic and more powerful. Fewer regrets, fewer years spent fighting reality, Fewer moments where you abandon yourself for approval or comfort. When you live inside what you can control, each year adds strength instead of scars, and time, instead of being your enemy, finally works in your favor. 6. The 7-day Stoic Reset. Change does not begin with motivation, it begins with structure. Most people wait until they feel better before changing their behavior. Stoicism reverses this order. It teaches that action reshapes emotion, not the other way around. The purpose of this 7-day reset is not to fix your life, but to restore inner stability, one small disciplined step at a time. Day 1 begins by separating what you can control from what you cannot. Write down everything currently draining your mental energy. Then divide the list into 2 columns. In the first, place your thoughts, choices, habits, and responses. In the second, place people's opinions, outcomes, the past, and uncertainty. This single exercise immediately reduces mental noise by returning responsibility to where it belongs. Day 2 is about reclaiming your attention. For 1 full day, limit unnecessary input. No endless scrolling, no reactive news consumption. Notice how often your mind reaches outward for stimulation or reassurance. This awareness alone restores a sense of control that most people haven't felt in years. Day 3 focuses on disciplined action. Choose one small behavior fully within your control and commit to it without negotiation. It might be a short walk, a focused work session, or a difficult conversation you've been avoiding. The goal is not intensity but consistency. Discipline rebuilds trust with yourself. Day 4 is silence with intention. Reduce explanation, reduce argument, reduce the urge to correct or defend yourself. Observe how much energy you usually spend trying to be understood. Silence practiced deliberately teaches you that your worth does not require constant justification. Day 5 removes complaint. For 24 hours, refuse to complain, out loud or internally. Each time the urge appears, pause and ask what action is available instead. This retrains the mind to replace helplessness with responsibility. You'll notice how quickly resentment begins to lose its grip. Day 6 restores perspective through reflection. Write briefly at the end of the day and ask yourself 3 questions. What did I do well? Where did I lose control? What will I do differently tomorrow? This simple review turns experience into progress instead of repetition. Day 7 ends with a personal declaration. Write one sentence that defines how you intend to live going forward, not a goal, but a principle. Something like, I will focus on what is within my control and release the rest. This becomes your inner anchor when uncertainty returns. This reset works because it rebuilds order before emotion. You are not trying to feel inspired. You are training your mind to respond with reason instead of impulse. Over 7 days, this structure begins to quiet the inner chaos that fuels loneliness, confusion, and despair. Stoicism doesn't promise permanent calm. Life will still test you. But after this reset, you face those tests differently, with less panic, less self-betrayal, and more steadiness. Discipline is not restriction, it is self-respect in action, and when practiced daily, inner stability becomes your default, not something you chase, but something you carry. 7. What life looks like after Stoic clarity. Stoic clarity doesn't make life easier, it makes you steadier. After clarity arrives, the world doesn't suddenly cooperate. Problems still appear, people still disappoint, plans still change. The difference is not outside of you, it's inside. You stop interpreting every challenge as a personal failure and start seeing it as part of the terrain of being alive. You no longer feel the need to explain yourself constantly. Before clarity, much of your energy went into justification, trying to be understood, approved of, validated. After Stoic clarity, that urgency fades. You speak when necessary, stay silent when it serves you, and let actions carry the weight of your values. Relationships change first, not because you become colder, but because you become clearer. You stop overgiving to earn acceptance. You stop tolerating subtle disrespect to avoid conflict. You choose proximity intentionally. Some connections deepen, others quietly fall away. Peace replaces performance. You stop living as if every moment is an audition. You no longer measure your worth by how productive, impressive, or agreeable you appear. Your sense of value becomes internal, anchored in effort and character rather than outcomes. This alone removes enormous pressure from daily life. With clarity comes a different relationship to failure. When things don't work out, disappointment still appears, but it doesn't collapse your identity. You ask better questions. What was within my control? What wasn't? What can be learned? Failure becomes instruction, not condemnation. Your emotional reactions slow down, not because you suppress them, but because you notice them earlier. You sense irritation before it turns into anger. You recognize sadness without drowning in it. You experience emotion without letting it dictate behavior. This space between feeling and action is where freedom lives. Time begins to feel different. You stop rushing to escape the present or obsessively planning to secure the future. You focus on the quality of your actions now. This grounded attention makes even ordinary days feel solid instead of fragmented. You become harder to manipulate. When approval no longer defines you, external pressure loses power. Guilt tactics, fear-based urgency, and emotional games stop working. You don't fight manipulation aggressively. You simply don't respond. Calm boundaries speak louder than arguments. Work changes too. You still pursue excellence, but without desperation. You do what is required with care, then release the result. This paradoxically improves performance because anxiety no longer interferes. You are present, focused, and composed. Loneliness transforms into solitude. You may still spend time alone, but it no longer feels empty. Silence becomes restorative instead of threatening. You trust your own company because your inner life has structure and direction. When you choose connection, it comes from fullness, not need. Clarity reshapes your relationship with meaning. You stop searching for one grand purpose to fix everything. Instead, you find meaning in living by principle, honesty, restraint, courage, and reason. Purpose becomes something you practice daily, not something you wait to discover. You stop asking life to guarantee outcomes. You accept uncertainty as the price of being alive. This acceptance doesn't make you passive, it makes you resilient. You act fully, knowing results are never promised, but character always counts. Marcus Aurelius wrote that a person should be satisfied to be exactly who they are, nothing more, nothing less. After Stoic clarity, this stops being an idea and becomes lived experience. You no longer feel the constant urge to be elsewhere, someone else, or more than you are right now. Calm becomes your default, not your reward. And when challenges come, as they always will, you meet them standing upright, not because you are invincible, but because you are aligned. Your thoughts, values, and actions move in the same direction. This is what life looks like after Stoic clarity. Not perfect, not painless, but grounded, deliberate, and quietly strong. Loneliness, confusion, and quiet depression do not appear because life is cruel. They appear when we live without inner order. Throughout this lesson, you've seen that these struggles are not personal failures. They are signals that attention drifted away from what you can control and toward what you never could. Stoicism offers one powerful correction. Separate what belongs to your responsibility from what does not. When you stop fighting reality and start mastering your responses, clarity returns. Not all at once, but steadily. Calm replaces reactivity. Self-respect replaces self-doubt. This philosophy does not promise happiness on demand. It offers something more durable: stability under pressure, the ability to stand upright when outcomes are uncertain, and the strength to act with integrity without constant validation. The lesson you've learned today is not meant to be admired. It is meant to be practiced quietly, daily, especially when no one is watching. If this message resonated, comment, "I choose inner order." Like the video, subscribe for more Stoic lessons, and share this with someone who may be silently struggling. You are not broken. You were simply never trained.